G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle, and now we're going to talk all about the Chaos Space Marines releases that have been previewed in the last day or so. Gotta admit guys, I'm feeling mixed on it, but give me a moment to get my thoughts together because I haven't had a great look yet, and although I have some points I do want to raise, they're only about the things I've properly looked at, which I can't necessarily say about some other things. So, first things first, this Demon Prince design. It's an acquired taste. It's probably the nicest way I can say it. I don't hate the model, I just wouldn't go out of my way to purchase it. There was no need for the Tactical Rock, for example. It's just a stupid addition to the miniature, and it's, you know, we joke about it getting out of hand, but come on, at what point is it getting out of hand? It's just overly blingy, whether it's the 50 rings on his left hand, whether it's all the extraneous details on the armor, the backpack, all the little hooks, horns, whatever coming out of it. I don't know what it is about it. It just feels so busy to me, and I'm a big less is more proponent. I don't know. Will anything truly make me happy? I mean, yes, obviously, there's plenty of models I love to pieces, especially in the Chaos range. I really like the old White Metal Demon Prince for 40k and the Nurgle Demon Prince for 40k. I liked both of those a lot. So this had very, very big shoes to step into, and it really hasn't for me. He's still kind of in power armor, but kind of not. It really just looks like he's wearing fantasy armor until you got to the cables and the shoulder pads. And it's just so... I have a problem here, and it's going to come up on all of the models, so I'll just get it out of the way early. I fucking hate brass trim. I'm so sick of it on my Chaos models. It's the suckiest part of painting a Chaos army. People are fine with painting mutations, and I suppose the tentacles and things like that, and that's all par for the course. But who here plays Chaos and isn't sick of painting all this brass trim? There's more brass than there is black on this model. Horrid. I'm sick of it as a trend. Stop doing it, Games Workshop. A little bit of brass to make them a little different, I get it, but you're treating the player base like they wouldn't be able to distinguish this from a Loyalist Marine if it wasn't for all of the extra spiky brass. Like, oh no, people might mistake the giant demon the size of a dreadnought for a regular Space Marine if we don't bling the armor out with brass everywhere. It's a trend that's gotta die. I'm fucking over it. You know, the model's not terrible, it's just so busy. Like, I like Be'lakor is a great example of a model that the only fault I draw with Be'lakor is the wispy, smoky crap on him. The sculpted on energy and flame effects. Apart from that, I really liked Be'lakor. Go back and watch the videos on that. I can't say the same for this. I would have been happy with a Be'lakor style demon. Would have been perfectly content. And then we get to the heads, which I think the Khorne one is fine. I think the Slaanesh one is excellent. The Tzeentch one should have been more like a Gaunt Summoner. Okay, this was once a human. Why are you turning him into a not Lord of Change? It doesn't look very good. It would have looked nicer if it was something like this. Creepy, you could say. It's almost like you can see that Space Marine helmet, like the Thousand Suns crest or something that used to be there. Well, he's all these eyes and that have morphed and molded out of the head of the Gaunt Summoner, blown up and put onto this model. Would have been awesome. And then you get to Rodigus on his after he's been cutting for a bodybuilding comp, because that's what I think the Nurgle one on the right there is. Because I mean, compare the head. Compare the head, seriously. And even right down to the horn coming out above the right eye, out of the eyebrow above the right eye, in the same location on both models, with the torn cloak directly under the hood leading down to the right eye on both of them. I think they used Rodigus STL, and then they just tweaked it a little bit to create this, which is not the worst thing in the world, but I just immediately think Rodigus when I see this. When the old Nurgle Demon Prince with his weird big eye was kind of endearing. You know, they could have gone for a large, like a fly head on him, or a really decayed human head would have been really creepy on him. Like human, just an actual human face, but like all rotted with like the nose rotted away and just a little bit of bone in the. Think like almost like a vampire-ish, like a decayed vampire corpse or something. There's a lot they could have done with it, and overall the model it's not shit. I'm not saying that. Obviously it comes across that way, but it's just they've had all this time to create a new demon prince, 10 years, whatever. This is the best they could do. I guess all the talent went into Be'lakor. I don't know. People hate me for it, and I don't care. Let's move on. So, here we have a bunch of cultists and possessed. So, the possessed Marines I have big thoughts on. And that is, I don't care for them at all, because I'm seeing 5 poses here, and well, one's got a tactical rock, one even has a tactical body. They do nothing for me. They are trying to live up to this, the 30k Gal Vorbak. And these are perfect for 30k. And they make a lot of sense. It's like, these are meant to be the first generation possessed, the ones that have the really good demon binding going on, where the demons are like the best that Chaos basically has to offer to a Space Marine for possession. Like, hey, we can do a good deal with. And the possessed that came after the Gal Vorbak, which is not as good, basically. And then you get these guys, and they're clearly far more mutated, and they've gone to the extent of all this extra brass and shiny gold trim. The same thing I was just complaining about in the Demon Prince. The gold trim everywhere, spiky arrows, and I hate it. Stop doing it, Games Workshop. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes the gold trim. I don't know who you're talking to, but no one ever says to me it's their favourite part of painting a Chaos Space Marine. In fact, people have deliberately come out of their way to come to me and say, I hate painting trim. Everyone hates it. Stop putting it everywhere. It's fine to put a little on models, like on around the rims of armor, but you're not putting it around the rims of armor. You're putting it on the armor, then around the armor, then through the armor, and across all the surfaces. And it is easier to paint these models gold and pick out the other colors later, because there's less painting to do that way. Just hate it. And you've got 5 boring poses. Oh, there's guy up on rock, guy with wide stance, guy up on not rock, but person. Guy running, back to boring stance. It's so generic. I expect that out of the resin Forge World models from 9 years ago. Have as much versatility and variety going on as these plastics do. They do zero for me. And what's worse is being plastic and the ability to, have multiple parts and multiple ways to build these guys. Unfortunately, the way they seem to be presented is the backpacks and such are so iconic for each model that if you buy more than 5 of these, it's really going to be obvious that it's the same part repeating over and over again because the parts are too unique. I know that sounds really weird that I've just said that on the one hand they're generic, but on the other hand they're unique. Well, you're going to notice this backpack with the big Chaos Star sticking out of it if it's twice in the same squad, aren't you? The exact same backpack. Same here with the spiky pufferfish testicle nacelles on this guy. You're going to notice the same part popping up again and again and again. All you need to do to make decent possessed for 40k was not to create some weird over-the-top possession kit like this. You just had to take the regular Chaos Space Marines and do what they did back in 3.5. Add a sprue of mutated arms and legs and heads and stuff that the player can freely interchange amongst the squad of regular Chaos Space Marines to show the mutations. This is one of those units where less is more. You've already got the Greater Possessed that nobody can buy outside of a box set. Go to town on those. Do your heavy mutations on those and leave these guys. But obviously, that's not the route we've headed down. So, let's move on. Then we get to our Accursed Cultists. And these are another bone of contention I have. And I've been playing Chaos since the 1990s, right? The very first faction I picked in all of Warhammer was Chaos. So they're near and dear to my heart, and the opinions I have on them are very strong because of that. They're not the right opinion, it's just obviously mine. But I feel like they go down the route of making Chaos Cultists too chaotic. What do I mean by that? Because people are going, what the hell does he mean? As in, they seem like a disorganized rabble. They strike me as something like the... what are the zealot dudes involved with witch hunters and that in fantasy? You know, the flagellants. They remind me of flagellants. There's no organisation to cultists whatsoever, and they keep bringing out these cultists in 40k year after year, which are just a disorganised rabble of they've just picked up whatever guns are laying around and, you know, a pipe wrench or whatever, and they're just going to use that as a weapon. And it's just a horde of unnamed dudes picked up together. It's so boring, because these guys, you wouldn't pick them out from a Necromunda gang. If you put these models together on the tabletop and you said they were Necromunda models, no one would bat an eye. Everyone would look at them and go, yeah, they're such a random mix. I could see every one of these guys having unique individual stats in some warband. To me, that kind of sucks, because I look back and I look at things like the Siege of Rax and the Renegade Imperial Guard, where you can see these were once Imperial Guardsmen. They had Imperial Guard armor and such, but they've clearly turned to Chaos. They got Chaos, you know, flesh carvings on their arms and Chaos markings on their armor. And even take a look at this basic infantryman. You can see there was a uniform here. And so when you see this in a squad full of this, it still works. It makes sense. Because you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's a squad that fell to Chaos. That's an army versus this, which is a rabble of peasants with weapons. And they feel the need to give them all like bare chests and they ditch body armor. They are humans. They're not retards. They are humans who've decided that Chaos is a better deal for them than the Imperium. It does not make them stupid or insane by default. They're simply humans who've decided to go down the path of evil. Therefore, shouldn't we be representing them with things like appropriate body armor? Like, these were once Imperial Guardsmen who've fallen to evil. But no, these are cultists. These are literally Imperial citizens rising up against the Imperium. And what, they couldn't raid a police station for body armor and weapons or something? Instead, they've just cobbled everything together? It's not the approach I prefer. Yes, include them as part of a Renegade's army, by all means. Okay, Renegade Cultists, but Renegade Guard is where it's at, you know. Look back at the Renegade tanks. Imperial tanks with Chaos Iconography on them. Here's an actual Forge World one. Pretty sure this was in one of the Masterclass books even. Malkador with Demolisher Cannon. It's cool. It's awesome to see that. Whereas it's so lackluster. And again, because these models are so uniquely designed, we fall into that same trap of seeing the same patterns and the same helmets and the same pose repeated over and over and over again. It starts to get very boring and samey because of it. So, end rant. Then we get to the another group of possessed. Here, what do they call them? They call them the Torments. Same problem. Falls into the category of how many of these can you have in your force before they get very samey looking. I'm guessing one squad, because these look very, very iconic. And I mean, I don't think they look bad. That's something people are going to get wrong about this video. I'm not saying any of these models look bad. Just, what is the theme you're trying to go for with Chaos? And it always seems to be an absolutely disorganized rabble. And if they're a disorganized rabble, then they don't pose a threat to the Imperium in the wider setting of the game. And if they don't pose a threat to the Imperium in the wider setting of the game, what are the stakes? If there's no stakes, it's hard to be really involved in what's happening on the tabletop for me personally. Obviously, different people are going to have different feelings on that. Some people won't care at all, and they're just in it for the game or whatever. Or they just think the models are cool regardless. Hey, you do you. But you're not here to do what you want to do. You're here to listen to my opinion on these. So I'm going to give it to you. I don't care for them. None of them. I don't know if I even want any of these models. And that's the first time I can honestly say that about a Chaos release. I at least didn't mind the Death Guard models. So, and then you've got these guys, which, again, I guess they're going down the Chaos Spawn replacement route, maybe? Or are these Torments? Accursed Cultists, Torments. I like the look of these a lot. But again, you're going to get one in the army. I mean, this one I don't like, but this dude's cool, bursting out of the flesh. This dude's cool, wearing his skin suit. This one with his weird scale arm, don't really like the look of, but the rest are good. You'd only get one of in the army before it becomes pretty, meh, we'll say. Then we get to these guys. Stupid tentacle looks crap. The model looks fine. Get rid of the tentacle. Maybe the fire in the standard, and this will be a really nice model. These are... I really like the Psyker head and spinal column in the chandelier. That's fucking cool. That is some grimdark chaos right there. I love that. He's like using the host body fluids to keep him alive. That is fantastic. That's the sort of thing I want to see in my chaos. I don't care about Dark Souls dude in the background there. The weird mutant banner thing looks like shit. The helmet's okay on him. It's very old school chaos, actually. The very almost 80s fantasy, the styling of the armor and the helmet covering the eyes, a bit of mouth of Sauron-y. Then he has that stupid little green tentacle arm, or she has that stupid little green tentacle arm coming out of her armpit, holding a walking stick, and the model has potential. They kind of ruin it. Just, what a shit release. Nothing to be grateful for here, guys. I'm sorry. Don't just get... Games Workshop can legitimately release crappy units. And just because they released new units, you don't have to be thankful for it. I'm certainly not. You gotta earn my dollar. And this isn't the way to do it. If I want Possessed that look good, I'm just going to go to Forge World and get me some of these, because these will work perfectly fine in 40k and they look great. And I won't have to paint a shit zillion tons of gold trim to use them. These are a visual nightmare. Yeah, let's move on. Khorne is coming to 40k, but we already knew that. We well and truly already knew that, so that's Khan the Betrayer in that picture up the top. I swear his helmet ears are getting bigger every time I see him. So they're very early on in the design process still, because they're showing us digital 3D renders of the chain axes. They're not actually showing us the chain axes or any models or anything like that. But we do have this artwork, and from this artwork we can extrapolate exactly the direction that they're heading, because Games Workshop artwork these days does not stray far from the models. So, what do I expect? Well, let's look at the axes. You're going to have gold trim everywhere on these models. The axes are going to have it all around the rim of the axe. So it's not just going to be a Khorne Berserker emblem or a Khorne emblem on the axes. You're going to have gold all the way around the outer rim of them. And then the handles on the axes are going to have big gold spiky pommels and quillins, and it's going to be gold everywhere. And then you look at these images and you think, this is Khorne. Khorne doesn't give a crap about looks. They're all about the slaughter, the bloodshed, the killing, the maiming, the burning, all that kind of thing. Why are they taking the time to decorate their armor so ostensibly when Khorne doesn't give a crap about that? That's not how you please Khorne, by decorating your armor with, I put 6,000 gold teeth around the trim on my pauldron. No. These models are going to look like this. They're going to look like Fantasy Khorne does, where every single armor plate is surrounded by gold fucking trim and it's going to look trashy. The models will be fine. In fact, they'll be good models, and it'll be just that one thing that is just ruining what otherwise would have been a perfect model. So they have time to fix that. Please, Games Workshop, if you listen, I know you don't, but if you listen, don't do gold trim. Look at your old Khorne Berserkers. Look at first the Black Book, as they're starting to be proto-Berserkers, when the World Eaters are becoming Khorne Berserkers. This is all you need. Just a red version of this, give him the more 40k style bunny ears, keep that Heresy era armor vibe, and his cool little World Eater sort of torso thing happening there. Maybe you can use the 30k World Eater icon on one arm and the Khorne icon on the other. And the chains across the shin there, the decals, add that kind of detailing to it. And then look at your old Khorne Berserker artwork here. How basically the gold trim is, a bit on the belt buckle, maybe on the kneecap or around the shoulders and the torso. But that was it. It was very restrained looking. And instead, we know, because you can see the artwork, that they're going to have, the chainsword with gold zigzaggy trim around the entire perimeter of the chainsword, where the bolt guns have gold trim around them. Stop putting gold trim all over Chaos. It looks shit. You've gone too far with it. It looks really good, and if you do it tastefully. Thousand Suns should be pretty much the excess of, that's how far you go in the direction of gold trim, and then everything else, you bring it back from there. Bring it back. Look at the Raptors in 40k and how much gold trim they have. Too far. Stop doing it. They're red armored with gold trim, not gold armored with red accents. Have I rammed home the point enough in this video that I really hate gold trim? Every model's starting to look like the Helldrake. It's just gold. Zigzags of gold. And weird edge highlights everywhere. And busy models. And Chaos has lost its feeling over the years. And this is why I get so passionate and so upset by it, because I love this game. They've lost the Chaos aesthetic. They get it consistently wrong in my eyes. Because they aren't doing evil men. That's what Chaos really is. It's evil men. People who've fallen to darkness. And they have appropriate mutations to represent the evil. For the Death Guard, it was always decay and mutilation. Where they were pretty much in stock standard power. But it was like if you took a dead Marine and you threw the corpse in a pond for a year, and then you dug up the corpse and reanimated. That was Nurgle, but now Nurgle is covered in tentacles and tendrils, and everyone's smiling for some reason. They're not missing the lower half of their face anymore, and their eyes haven't rotted out of their skull, and yet they can still see eerie. That's really eerie stuff, and that was what was cool about Nurgle. And for Khorne, it was all about the fact that it was function over form. They wore the red armor and they had the chain axes, and the reason they wore the red armor was because they wore white armor. It had just been stained with so much blood. And they said, well, if we just wore red armor, we wouldn't have to clean it. Like, what an approach. And instead, everything's just busy. They just think they've got to throw horns and spikes and gold trim everywhere. And it's all about where you put it and how you utilize it. That's what tells the story of Chaos. Everyone listens to like that old ADB quote on Chaos where he treats it like they're all absolute schizophrenic paranoid maniacs. If they all were, they'd never get anything done. I mean, well, the way they write the stories, they never seem to get anything done, but if they can't get anything done, then they're not a threat. And what makes Chaos interesting is that they're equally as capable as the universe around them is. The followers of Chaos, I mean, the Demon Primarchs are freaking Demon Primarchs. They are superior in every way to every other living individual in the galaxy, except for maybe the Loyalist Primarchs. Same for the Chaos Lord. A Chaos Space Marine Lord is every bit as equally capable as a Space Marine Chapter Master. The difference is that the Chaos Lord is an evil tyrant, but they come in all shapes and sizes. From your traditional maniac who kill everyone around him because they're that paranoid, to someone who is just so cold and calculating and ruthless. you got your Tywin Lannister types of Zinch versus your absolute psychopaths in Khorne. You're going to get a wide variety of personalities representing Chaos, and they consistently fail to deliver upon this. And that's why Chaos has sucked for a long time with Games Workshop. And the only thing they're getting right here is that they are going to do Khorne as its own faction. They shouldn't have done Khorne because they've been so well looked after over the years. I mean, they need to do them, yes, but they should be doing Slaanesh first and knocking them over, because the Emperor's Children are in a worse state than Khorne is, unfortunately. It would have been nice to see that. And they're not doing that. They're not doing the Legions enough justice. Because the Legions are what people are really interested in. People keep saying it to them. Every poll, every survey, people are like, oh, I want to get the Traitor Legions. I want to play Traitor Iron Warriors in 40k. I want to play Traitor Night Lords. I want to play Traitor Alpha Legion. And they don't get to play that. What they have to play is Black Legion, and they get to paint it silver. And that's your Iron Warriors. And they go, here's some stratagems, you know, and it's like, well, that's not enough to tie people over. You give whole codexes to Space Marine chapters, and chapters have far less deviation from one another than Chaos Legions do from one another. The Legions are dramatically different. And not only are they different from one another, but compared to a chapter, Legions are utilizing equipment and tactics from the Great Crusade. And they were divergent even back then. The amount of stuff they can bring to the battle compared to a Space Marine chapter is unfathomable. And not only that, not only do they have this wide pool of technology to draw upon, but they have things like cool-ass demon engines. And every time they bring out one of those, for some reason the demon engine's decorated in gold trim. Drives me insane. So yeah, this is why it's an underwhelming release. Because they're showing their lack of imagination. This is corporatized chaos. This is what happens. It's not to pick on the sculptors or anything. It's the direction that is being given to the art department, and the art department gives this direction onto the sculptors. And so you end up with this really generic, spiky, evil look. And it's just so boring. And you only need to look at your cultists to really ram the point home. They're just a rabble. They look like a Necromunda gang. And yet you look over at your Siege of Rax cultists, these guys look badass. You can tell that, just by looking at them, oh, that was a soldier once. This is what happens when your soldier goes full Conrad Kurz. He's been living in the jungle fighting the Viet Cong too long, and it's gone a little bit cuckoo. That's interesting. And that's a legitimate threat on the battlefield. An organised enemy resistance where the Traders of Chaos have the same level of technology, war gear and tactics as the Loyalists do, plus the backing of demons. That's legitimately terrifying. But that's not what we're getting. What we're getting is we're consistently getting a rabble, and a rabble is not intimidating. It's a rabble. You look at these cultists and you think, they're going to get mown down by Primaris bolt guns. They're not threatening at all. And you're right. What are these guys going to do against Primaris Space Marines? Nothing. Even the Vraxian dudes are going to have trouble against Primaris. But at least these guys, you look at them and you think, you know what? They're probably going to be smart enough to bring up heavy weapons like las cannons and heavy bolters and try and use those to take out Space Marines. You could see these guys winning that fight. So yeah, underwhelming release. And that's the short version of a lot of the things I think they're getting wrong with Chaos in this release especially. And compare and contrast this video heavily with the videos I did talking about the Chaos Space Marines and the Chaos Space Marine Terminators. The regular power armor and the Terminators. And look how glowingly positive I was of those versus this. It just shows the wide gulf of emotions that I can go through on this channel. Anyway, what do you think? What do you think of these releases as a whole? Do you think I'm wrong in my approach to? And I'm not saying Chaos can't have a horde or a rabble. Like I said, include this part of the army by all means. But the professional organised militia, the Traitor Guard, is a far more interesting and devastating option in my mind. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Mac of the Outer Circle, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.